Okay, looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. Sorry we're running a few minutes late, just some technical difficulties, but hopefully it should be up and running now. So just a quick introduction. My name is Zach Veers. I'm the clinic owner and director here in Seattle, and this is my guest, Kelly McFarland. She's in Portland at the clinic down there. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Kelly a little bit more. You've already heard about me, so we're going to be interviewing Kelly, learn about her experience with Egoscue, and we'll also talk about some neck pain and some stuff that I think is really relevant to our situation right now. So welcome, Kelly, and yeah.
Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine out there in the Northwest. So good to have it back in our lives for the next few months. And thanks for having me, Zach. And I'm excited to share my story with you guys and talk to you about my 20-year career as an Egoscue therapist here in the Portland and San Diego office. So Zach has some good questions he's written up for me and wants to ask, and we'll get started.
Yeah, so that, I guess we'll just get started right where, well, how it all started for you. You know, you mentioned 20 years roughly. So how did you first find Egoscue, and what led you to this career?
Well, back in the early 2000s, I was a personal trainer, and I also had some neck pain. I was a competitive gymnast for 13 years, basically my whole childhood. And then I became really inactive in my junior high school years, and started to suffer from neck pain. All the sitting posture and the rounded forward position for studying and looking down at my books and being less active created some neck pain for me that I was dealing with in high school and then on into college. And when I would work out, I would get more neck pain, and I would be really icing at night or heating at night and taking ibuprofen because the pain was so bad I couldn't sleep at night. And then I became a personal trainer, and I learned about the Egoscue method through who is now my husband, Martin McFarland, who I own the clinic here with in Portland. And so it was just a whole different paradigm, a whole different way of thinking about the body. And I'd never experienced that before as a personal trainer. And so I started doing the exercises, me personally, for my own posture. I still remember my original posture photos. You know, my shoulders were rounded forward, my head was in front of my hips, my pelvis was tipped forward, my feet were everted and pointing out to the outside. I took one look at the pictures and thought, wow, no wonder why I'm in neck pain. You know, my head is way out in front of my body. So I immediately started doing the exercises on a daily basis and found relief right away. It didn't mean that I didn't still have things to work on, muscle imbalances that I had created as a gymnast for 13 years. So I worked on those imbalances, but I was out of pain, within a matter of a week or two. And then I started reading the books, like Pete's books, and I just thought, wow, I wasn't being taught this in my traditional personal training curriculum. And I thought, gosh, I could help so many people. And so I just switched my whole personal training practice over to strictly Egoscue training and got certified through the Egoscue University, and have never looked back. And I've been, helping people for the past 20 years find the relief from suffering from chronic pain and physical limitations for 20 years. So it's so rewarding.
Isn't it? I mean, you've been doing this for a while. I've been doing it for not as long, but long enough to see a lot of people, and it still amazes me sometimes how quickly the body will respond, right? Like you can be in chronic pain for years, and sometimes even within one session, right? Just doing something very simple, can often just make that pain go away, right? So
yeah, I always say that I feel like in 20 years, I feel like I've seen a lot of miracles, and my motto is always suffering is optional. When you've got the tools and and you know what creates the posture and the position that creates the pain, and you have the tools and something that you can do about it, you're empowered at such a level that, um, you know, that you've never experienced before. I just always remember my point of total empowerment with the Egoscue method. I was at the gym. It was early in the morning because I saw clients at 6 a.m. And I was doing my own menu before they got there. And I was laying in what we call the tower, in an exercise where you have one leg up and one leg out. And I was laying there in the dark. And I just started crying because I had this total moment of like empowerment. I knew that from then on, I had the tools to use for myself to get myself out of pain and to keep myself out of pain. And then not only that, but I also had a community and a group of people, staff members at the clinics, Pete himself, that I could lean on should I not have the answer and I didn't know, or if something happened and I did have questions that, I couldn't answer. So that was like such a relief for me. And for 20 years, I mean, I don't have any limitations. I can do anything. I hike and I bike and I, do workouts of any kind. And I don't have any pain. I don't have any limitations. And I just use my tools every day. So, I think we're all, as Egoscue therapists, we really do walk the walk and talk the talk.
That's what I tell people, I still do my exercise every day too. It's what keeps us going, right? You gotta stick with it. So by the way, for those watching on our Facebook Live right now, feel free to put, if you have any questions for Kelly or for me, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll hopefully be able to get to those, but if not now on the call, then afterwards we can answer those. So well, thanks for giving that background, Kelly. So you learned about Egoscue, you were a trainer, and then you at some point ended up in San Diego, right? And you were working directly under Pete Egoscue. For those of you who don't know, he's the founder of this method. So had the kind of the headquarters clinic there in San Diego. And I think that was just about when they were starting to open up other clinics, but for a long time, that was kind of the only clinic, right? So So you worked there for a couple of years, right?
And I did. I was so fortunate and grateful. I got a chance to work with several therapists who had been there for 10 plus years. So I just always say I was just steeped in that, just like really rich, like, wisdom filled Egoscue therapy, working with practitioners that had been there for 10 plus years. Not to mention Pete's office was just like right across the floor for me. So if I had questions or I needed anything, I could just run into his office, and which I did often, and could get all my answers and get all that good wisdom. Egoscue knowledge. Yeah.
Well, this is, I think, a story you've told me before, but he wouldn't always just give you the answers, though, would he?
Oh no, he taught me the best lessons, not only about the method, but I think just about being with people and in life. You know, he really taught me that you just really have to listen to the body, your own, but also when you're with the client, like, well, what is the pain trying to tell you? What does it need? What is it asking for? And when the client can really put words to that and start to, visualize and actualize that, then we can turn that into exercises and put that into a program that really works for them and addresses, their needs and gets them what they need out of the program. Like some people want to be able to get up and down off the floor. Some people, want to be able to walk a mile. Everybody's goals and, things that they want to do in life are different. But the programs have to be tailored to the individual. And everybody's pain tells them something different and needs something specific to them. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I really took out of working at the corporate office, is just really, really how to listen to people and their body, and how to turn that into an exercise program that really fits the individual, not just a blanket program that everybody gets the same exercises and it's a cookie cutter, one size fits all for knee pain, one size fits all for neck pain, one size fits all for elbow pain.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to remember is, we get asked questions all the time like, oh, do you have any exercises for neck pain? Or, oh, I've got a herniated disc. What's the best exercise for herniated disc? And it's like, well, it depends, right? But it depends because we have to go back to what's causing it, right? And ultimately, the pain is just a signal. Like you said, what's the body trying to tell us? And we have to figure out first what's causing it, and rather than just ignoring that signal, we have to treat the underlying dysfunction or the problem that's causing that pain. So
Yeah. And I mean, I know for me as a gymnast, for 13 years, I had very specific muscle imbalances that were specific to my sport, but that were also specific to me personally. So, in my activity level, my day to day habits of movement. So, my program did have to be tailored to me, and those exercises had to be modified as I got straighter and stronger and straighter and stronger. I didn't have just the same set of exercises from the beginning until today. Like, they evolve as my body evolves and as I go through different changes in life. They were different when I was out of gymnastics. They were different before I had kids. They're different now that I've had two kids. They're different now that I work out and do other things now. So,
yeah,
I always say that, your Egoscue program, it's a living document. It evolves with you as your body changes and grows over time. And I think that's the beauty of it.
yeah. So I guess that brings us to a good transition here. We wanted to talk about something that's, I think you and I both agree, is pretty common now, especially with the past year of being most people having to work from home and, working. That means being on a computer for, I mean, not that we weren't on computers a lot before, but now we're, just stuck at home and probably not using a very ergonomic setup, and um, all that comes with that. So we're seeing a lot more, at least I am seeing a lot more like neck, shoulder, like upper body symptoms because, well, we're stuck in this position in front of a screen and very limited movement with the rest of our bodies. So anyway, I wanted to ask you if there's what your advice for people in that situation, and maybe they're suffering with neck pain or could be anything, but we'll just stick with neck. What advice do you have for people in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak, for my own neck pain that I had, 20 years ago. I mean, like I said, looking at those posture pictures, I can see them. They're like ingrained in my mind with that forward head position. And yeah, I was spending a lot of time because I was studying. I was pre-veterinary, so I did a lot of really hardcore studying, like pre-med basically. So, that really caused a lot of forward position, which is just like what people are doing on Zoom and homeschooling. I mean, I experienced this with my kids, even now. As far as getting into those positions and those postures and having to do my exercises to get up out of them. And I just have to really remind myself every day too, like, get up, get moving, change positions. Don't stay seated the whole time. Sit in different chairs, sit in different positions, stand up for part of the time when you have to be on those meetings. And if you don't have to be visual, you don't have to be on the screen, you just have to be on the audio. Take a walk your paces, let your arms swing. And then there's basic exercises that you can do even just up out of your chair. Whether you're on screen or not, you can do a quadricep stretch, or you can do gluteal contractions to try to get your glutes to fire and function underneath your, spine and your shoulder blades, so that you can get those hips kind of woke up and active and online again. Because when you're sitting for so long, they just take the back seat and they kind of tuck under and slump under, and then you round forward. I mean, we've kind of all seen that posture in ourselves and in our kids. I mean, they're the ones sitting there in the homeschool chairs too. So, what's
Yeah.
good for you is good for them as well.
Oh, for sure. It's crazy how, I mean, I feel like we're seeing more and more younger people, children who have just, terrible posture already. And these things that we used to think were quote unquote, old people problems or aging issues, we're seeing it younger and younger, because I think you're right. We're spending so much time not moving and really restricted environment of sitting at a desk or something, right? So do you
Yeah,
have you
I
mentioned
often
posture. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I often challenge my clients, to set a timer across the room, like every half hour. And then when that timer goes off, they have to get up and go across the room to actually get it. So to physically do some exercises, because if it's here, you can just hit snooze like 10 times, right? Like it's your alarm clock. But if it's across the room, you're going to get up. It's going to prompt you. It's going to like reset the brain to say, okay, take a break, walk around, do some exercises.
Good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Sometimes I'll put my phone rather than having it like on the desk next to me, I'll like purposefully put it on the other side of the room or out of reach. So I have to, get up more often because sometimes, I mean, I see still a lot of my clients right now on Zoom. And so I'm
Yeah,
stuck in front of the computer a lot of the day sometimes
more
too.
than
So
as
um,
practitioners. Yeah.
yeah, it's so finding those ways to mix it up, I think is really important. People ask about standing desks a lot. There's different tools out there that are helpful, but ultimately it comes down to you just have to move your body more, whatever that
Yeah.
means for you, and ultimately correct the posture that you're bringing to the table, so to say,
Yeah.
or the desk.
Or the sport. Yeah. The
Because
body that you bring to the event. It's not the event that's the problem. So
yeah,
fixing the posture and getting your body in alignment, then going for a run, then sitting at your desk,
right,
then, standing.
yeah, exactly. So Um, you mentioned the posture and kind of described it, but can you give people an idea or describe, or maybe you have some visual you want to show about, what kind of postures would typically, what's a bad posture, either standing or sitting, and what's a good one, just to give people some reference.
Yeah, I often
Yeah.
catch my clients in their kind of quote unquote um, bad postures. I don't like to use the word bad or good when it comes to posture, but I'll catch them in the postures that they typically sit in, and they always point directly to the pain that they're having in their body. So, they'll lean to one side with one elbow on the armrest and have more weight onto one hip versus the other, or they'll cross their legs and it's always usually in one direction. And then the pain will be in that SI joint, that upper kind of back hip area on the side that they cross over to. Um, and or the pelvis slides underneath and then they have kind of a C curve position in the chair and their shoulders round forward, and then they say, oh, I have lots of head and neck tension, pain. So those are a lot of the sitting postures that I see kind of in my chair when I'm like working with people. I'm always observing them while they're thinking I'm not looking, because that's where I get like the best about their posture. Most people will pose to look like this guy, right? When they're in front of me.
Right.
Um, but the standing postures, that's a really good way to know if you're out of balance too. Your body will always compensate or go into those postures as a way um, to keep you upright and keep you in, going, but you're using compensating muscles in order to do that. And then standing too, if you're standing and you find that you stand on one side more than the other and you kind of push your hip out to the side. Us moms that carried our babies, we always had them on the one hip on the one side, and that hip kind of goes out to the side, and then we have all the weight on the other leg.
Mhm.
But carry that 10, 20 years later, that posture doesn't get corrected, that imbalance doesn't get corrected after carrying a kid for 2 years. And if you have multiple kids, then you've added years onto that. So that can cause a lot of hip pain, back pain, neck and shoulder pain, all of that. Um, so yeah, those are things I typically see as kind of red flags for me, going, oh, okay, there's a muscle imbalance here that they need to have corrected, that we need to treat with exercises.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then, so it just goes back to the point you were mentioning earlier about it needing to be customized specific to your body, because, there's definitely some patterns. Most people probably have some amount of forward head and some rounded shoulders. That's,
Mhm.
hard to find anybody who doesn't have some of that nowadays. But otherwise, I mean, we have to really just start by assessing the whole body, because you were talking about the hips, but I've even seen like people's neck pain being caused by something that was a problem all the way down at the ankle level at the foot, you know. So, and the foot collapses in or turns out, and then that makes the pelvis not be level, which makes the spine not be straight, which makes your neck be crooked. So it's
Yeah.
like this chain reaction effect. So you have to look at the whole body, but
Well connected, that's for sure.
yeah,
And we know that, if your foot is everted and your knee points in or out, if that doesn't get corrected, the neck pain cannot really get any better, because your head and neck sits on top of your spine, your pelvic girdle. So whatever's below that's out of alignment is supporting what's up above. And so if that's not corrected in the chain of events for the body, the biomechanics are off, the posture's off, and the pain just really doesn't have a chance without all the parts being addressed and all the posture, being corrected over time.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. So I think that's what really intrigued me about the Egoscue method as well when I first started, was how it looks at the whole body and not just the symptom, right? It's a little different than most traditional physical therapy, at least, is more focused on the area that hurts, right? Versus Egoscue is going to look at the big picture a little bit more so, and correct all the pieces of the puzzle,
Like Pete said, the ankle bone's connected to the knee bone's connected to the hip bone. I used to hear that every Saturday when I worked the phones for his radio show.
Really, oh, that's funny.
His little jingle, yeah. So true.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. So let's maybe, to give our listeners or viewers something practical to do, to take away. Sitting, that's something that we teach all our clients really at some point, is, what's the optimal sitting position? And if you do have to be sitting for extended periods of time, what does that look like? So maybe I'll be your client for a few minutes, and you can just walk me through it. Okay. Let me actually get my.
What chair you have, whatever you've got is great. You can make it work. And then if you have the time and the money to invest in something more ergonomically, supportive for your body, that's great too. So
I'm just gonna sit on, just so people can see me better. I'm gonna sit on a block, but
okay, that sounds good. Yeah, and this posture that I'm going to teach Zach to do is what you would do if you were sitting in your chair, like what we call them is perchers. So you sit to like the front of your chair while you're typing. If you find yourself sitting to the front of your chair a lot, you're considered a percher. Okay, and so you want to look at the height of your chair, making sure that your chair is going to get those hips at 90 degrees. So the shoulders above the hips, and then the hips straight out from the knee, that angle at the hip and below the shoulder is 90 degrees. And if you want to take it just slightly higher than 90 degrees, that's okay too. So now his hips are a little bit more open in that second position that he showed. Here they're right at 90. And in this position, you want to make sure the hips at 90 degrees, the shoulders are up above the pelvis. So that means you have to roll your pelvis forward. And when I say that, I always say, take your belly button out and down. And you want to have a, full Thanksgiving dinner like belly. You want to take big, deep breaths in through that diaphragm, because when you belly breathe during the day, especially when you're at your seat, you're going to create that nice lumbar curve in your seated position and or standing position. And then your shoulders naturally just fall down on top of that curve in the low back. So rolling the pelvis forward, yep, tipping it forward versus tucked under, yep, yeah, roll forward.
Where people get hung up a lot is we tell them to sit up straight, and immediately they go.
Yeah, they arch their back and stick their chest out and up. But you want to make sure your sternum stays square and straight to the wall in front of you, not tipped up towards the ceiling. That's a indicator that you're arching your back muscles to get the extension that you need in your low back, and to roll your hips forward. And you want to be getting it from the hip. Yeah. And then you want the knee obviously to be at 90 degrees as well. And make sure that that ankle joint is right below the knee. And you can see he's not crossing his legs. He's keeping them hip width, parallel, straight. He's not crossing them. He's not, all the way together. His knees aren't falling out to the sides. You want to try to keep that 90-degree position, hip width, both feet flat on the floor with equal weight from front to back, as long as you can. Yep, and your elbows should be directly underneath your shoulders with a 90-degree angle at the elbow, and hit your keyboard so that it's just right underneath those hands while that elbow's at that 90 degrees. And then when you get tired, you take this exact same posture position and you shove it to the back of your chair. You take your buttocks and you just put it right into the seat of that chair where it's right up against the back. And then you have the bottom and the back supporting that upright 90-degree posture. And then you can, pull the keyboard back with you or scoot closer to your desk to really make sure that those hands stay in position. And that'll give you a lot of endurance, like chair endurance. You'll not only get stronger in your pelvic muscles from holding yourself up like that, but you'll actually, with that belly breathing too, and having that airflow, you're going to be oxygenating your brain and the other organs in your body to really like stay online and keep engaged in your meetings and the homeschooling and all that. So
yeah, I immediately, like, sitting like that, even just for a minute or two, like, you definitely feel it. At least I do in my hip flexors, the front of the, like,
oh yeah,
right, because that's what's driving that pelvis to tip forward, right? So if you're slouched, like relaxing, your pelvis is going to tip backwards or posterior, right? And you're having that kind of C shape in your spine, but tipping the pelvis forward so that straightens out your spine and puts that curve in your low back. I mean, that's really, we're trying to turn on some hip muscles that are really dormant most of the time when you're sitting.
Yeah, when we're just sitting and slouching, those hip flexors are turned off and your glutes are turned off. So, when you roll the pelvis forward and stick your butt out and get that arch into your low back. But the breathing part's important too. Like really get rid of that sucking and tucking and of those tummy muscles. Let everything hang out and breathe, because that is so crucial to, that low back position, and actually getting your hip flexors to fire and function. Breathing is important to that as well. So yeah, and you're not going to be able to sit like that all day, to the front of your chair perched in that position. You're going to get fatigued. So you've got to use the chair. That's what a chair is for, is to support that posture. And just keep checking yourself. If you find yourself crossing your legs during the day, as soon as you notice it, pull out and go feet straight on the ground, or if you find yourself leaning, then, check yourself, bring yourself back to neutral again. Those are kind of like little games you can play with yourself throughout the day, to help keep you upright and, in a good posture position.
That's good. And then when you get fatigued, maybe that's a good sign from your body that, hey, maybe you need to get up and walk around or go do your exercises or just change the position, right? So
yeah, if you're getting tired, if you're yawning, that means you need to do more belly breathing. Set an alarm for every half hour, not only to move, but to take like 3 good deep breaths, to get that oxygen into the brain, into the body.
That's a great idea. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Kelly, for all that. I think that's a lot of good content and good stuff that people can take home today. But also wanted to, I'll put our both of our contact information in the chat here on Facebook on the post, so you can reference that after the call.
Yeah.
And our website, you can also go to egoscue.com and you can find a clinic near you or find a practitioner. You just hit find therapy or at home therapy. We're, like we said, seeing people on Zoom still. So if that's, if you can't make it into a clinic for whatever reason, you can do this just as well from home. But reaching out to a therapist is probably the first step, so that you can at least, start to understand yourself, your pain and what's going on, get your questions answered, and get a plan together moving forward. to start to correct your problems if you're having any. So yeah, you can reach us through the website, through our emails, which I'll put in the chat, but it's just Kelly at Egoscue or Zachary at Egoscue. And also wanted to make sure I announced we're doing another workshop next.
We're doubling up here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, let's see, it's the 22nd. So April 22nd, it'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific time.
It'll be a Zoom webinar, so you can just RSVP to your local clinic, and we'll send you the Zoom link, and we'll, go live at 2 o'clock on the Zoom, and we'll be discussing knee pain, right, Zach?
Yep, it'll be about knee pain, but we'll give like the basic, introduction about Egoscue, what it is, how it relates to knee pain. We'll go over some specific knee stuff, but I encourage anybody who's, even if you don't have knee pain, anybody who's interested in Egoscue for any reason, I think you'll get something out of it, and it's free. It takes about an hour, during your day. So hopefully you can take a break from your other Zoom meetings and jump on.
Join maybe the one that could change your life forever.
Yeah, right. So once again, April 22nd, 2 o'clock. If you're not already subscribed to our newsletters, you make sure you do that by contacting us. Because we announce those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Kelly, thanks again. And any last words before we sign off here?
Just keep moving, everybody.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, let us know if anybody has any other questions, and we'll be doing this again soon, I hope, right?
Yeah, we've got some other topics that we want to talk about too. So you'll be seeing me back here again with Zach in the next month or two for sure.
All right. Take care.
Have a great day.